And our next guest brought BYU basketball back from the brink in 1997, returned the Cougars to the NCAA tournament. Our pleasure to welcome former head coach and our longtime friend Steve Cleveland back to the Wise Guys. You took a picture, you signed some autographs. Anything else we can do to make you feel at home? Good to have you back.
Well, where's the post-game food?
I know.
That's around the corner.
That's always, there's a fridge over here. I got you water. When Michael says he grew up watching Coach Cleveland, I'm like, man, that makes me feel old because, like, you and I worked together when you were – I was calling games when you were coaching. Like, am I that old, Coach? I don't know what's going on.
We're getting up there. We're getting up there. No, we're not going to catch you, but we are getting up there.
I'm getting closer as a percentage every year to you.
72.
Cedar Park, Texas on the live stream. It is hopping all around the world tonight. And it is the night before. It's like Christmas for a head coach, right? Yeah. So our first question out of the gate is what is a night like for the head coach the night before a season opener?
Not nearly as much as it would be for a conference opener.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you're still excited and pumped and wanting to get on the floor and put in action everything you've practiced and prepared for. So, yeah, there is an energy and emotion that you just love, and nothing better than walking out into that arena and having 17 or 18,000 people there going crazy, and everybody gets juiced and we're ready to go. So it's a wonderful thing. But
you slept good the night before, all that kind of stuff?
I usually would be okay. Oh, my sleep time was between about 2 and 4 in the afternoon before the game.
Oh, so you would take a pregame nap?
I would take a nap and just relax and then go. And but as far as everything else, and I never eat much on game day, and I'd have a little bit to do. Have a small piece of something before we get. But I hardly ever ate, and I certainly prepared in a way that a nap really helped me prepare. And we'd already done everything else. We'd already done
shoot-arounds over and all that.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I took care of my personal self at that time.
That's a great.
So you go in the office, shut the door, and you're out, and everyone knows not to bug you?
There were times of that. Sometimes I just go home and take a nap.
Okay. Yeah. Or if you're on the road, take a nap at the hotel?
Oh, no, always. Yeah. Always. I remember our first game at San Diego State that we ever played and competed in as a new staff. And I was staying at the high rise in downtown San Diego.
Yeah. The Marina Marriott, we used to say, yeah.
And, I mean, I was just toast. I mean, I could not control myself. And finally, I just sat there and just did a little bit of meditation, visualize, just relax here, calm down. And I ended up taking about a 30 or 40-minute nap, which really relaxed me. And it was a difficult couple first years, but we actually won that first game.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. I like the no eating on it. Dave would tell you that he doesn't even allow me to eat for a certain amount of hours before a game.
Well, there was an incident.
He and I called the Colorado State game together. In the course of one football game, I threw up 7 times right next to him. And so he said, no more. You're not allowed to eat for 2 hours before the game.
It was a true test of professional.
Yes.
Trying to hold it together while someone's losing it. Hey, Kevin Young's got a unique situation here. He comes to BYU from the NBA, built a roster the likes Cougar fans have never seen before. How much pressure is he feeling tonight?
I don't think he's feeling a great deal of pressure. I mean, he's excited, and there's energy and there's anxiety that comes with every game. They've prepared. They've been in this business for a long time. They've got I've been to 4 practices, and so I've seen every part of what they do. And really the biggest difference between maybe a staff like that that's so geared towards international coaching, the NBA, I mean, they've come from all over. And I've had a chance to get to know some of the assistants. It's been a wonderful thing. But what I really see here is that, I'm looking at the roster and not naming names, but I can see 10 guys that can play, okay? Mm-hmm. I've been to enough practices to know there's 10 guys that can play. There's another few that are freshmen or rookies or transfers that maybe can't play. But there is a calm that you have in a preseason practices as you see this group come together. The truth of it is, what Coach is doing is phenomenal, but it's no different than what Dave Rose did or Steve Cleveland or anybody else. You're teaching fundamentals. You're doing it with different terminology. You're doing it with different guys and different coaches. And so it's fun to go to practice and see those things as they break the defense down, as they talk about offensive schemes and pushing the ball and spreading the floor. And, Yegor can really pass from anywhere. But that's what I go when I watch a practice. That's what these guys are in right now. And this is a good test for them to play in the public And it's a game that they've played a couple of scrimmages, real competitive scrimmages away from that, but they're ready.
Let me interject here some breaking news here on the Wise Guys as we're live on a Monday night. 7-foot prep phenom Xavier Staten out of Nevada. He's ranked number 29 in the class of 2025, the number 3 center nationally. Choosing tonight between Michigan, UNLV, Stanford, and BYU. And a couple of minutes ago, he chose BYU.
Awesome.
What is going on?
They just keep winning on these kids.
Yes, they do. And is he a one-and-done guy, or is he maybe going to be here for a few years? Who knows?
Yeah.
And I think that, is he eligible this year?
He'll be in the class coming next year.
25. That's awesome. I mean, listen, they've proved that they can go out and find guys and have relationships and do those things. The one-and-done guys are going to be really good, but that's not going to be the foundation of this team. It's going to be what gets everybody hyped and everybody excited, and they're going to have games. I watched Jaeger play 3 or 4 times. I've watched him practice. Yeah. He is so skilled, so gifted, has the highest basketball IQs. But he's another guy. Don't get me, he's special, and he'll play in the league probably for years. But at the end of the day, new guys coming in, it's going to be. Well, I'll give you an example. I have no idea who's going to start tomorrow.
We're going to ask you in a minute for your picks.
Well, I'll tell you right now. I think it's going to be Foose. It's probably going to, now, could it be Keita? Could it be someone else?
Foose has been banged up.
He has been banged up. So we're going to take this.
This is what the SID released, which I don't know how accurate that is or not.
I would say it's real accurate.
So Foose or Keba.
So you got Jaeger can play 1 to 5. You got Kanchings, who will be probably a one-and-done. Keita is a rim-to-rim guy, dunks, block shots, athletic.
Jumps out of the gym, right?
Richie Saunders is just a dog, okay? That dude should be playing football, too, in his spare time.
Exactly.
And he's just so intense. Trevin, he's the captain. I don't know if he's been officially named the captain, but I suspect he will be. I've watched him. He's just shooting the lights out of it. You still got Dallin Hall, who's been banged up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when he's coming back. But there's a core group. You got 5 there, and you start looking at this roster. You got a picture of the roster.
Hey, here. Remember that microphone? Come on, keep that microphone right there.
Shush. I'll
give you a whole.
But I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing Elijah Crawford being a guy that's going to play minutes at the backup point guard. Okay. He's 6'2". He's not overwhelming, but he's defensively a dog, and he gets after it, and he's just doing great things. Now, Malo Boskovic, the 6'10 junior, I think he's eligible and play. I haven't watched him practice.
I don't know if he's eligible yet. He played a little bit in the exhibition.
How was he in the exhibition?
And I think he had 8 or 9 points. Came in late.
Yeah.
And I think they're still waiting on, as far as I know, they're still waiting on the NCAA for that, but we've watched him in practice.
Yeah, I have too, yeah.
He's all 6'10 and legit.
No question.
What about Moet Mag, the transfer from Rutgers?
Hey, he's going to have an impact. I mean, again, I don't know how you play 10 guys, okay, in competitive games. That's usually really hard to do if it's blowouts.
How deep can you go comfortably? 8?
8 or 9.
9.
In foul troubles, circumstances, guys aren't playing well that particular night. But the idea that all 15 guys that are going to play, that's not what the real world looks like. I'll guarantee you that's not what the real world looks like in the Big 12.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be good. They're going to be really good. But they're playing against 22, 23, 24-year-old guys that have been playing in arguably the best basketball conference in the country. And it's going to be a challenge. And they have coaches and support going out everywhere. I love this team. I love watching them play. But the idea that they're just going to come in and blow out people, that's not what the coaching staff's thinking. That's not what the players are thinking.
That's what the fans are thinking.
That's what the fans think and want.
Yeah.
And they need to just have it tempered down a little bit and get behind these guys, keep rooting for them. But it's not going to be a perfect world in the Big 12.
You talk about there's some of these one-and-dones, and we had lunch with Kevin Young, and he talked about the fact that he doesn't want to do the Kentucky model where you have 5 one-and-dones because you don't go to Final Fours, right?
Yes.
But he wants to have a core of guys that are there that he brings along and develops with a couple of one-and-dones, maybe one year and 2 the next year kind of a thing. So a guy like Dawson Baker, we were watching him the other day in warm-ups for their exhibition game. Like, I don't think he missed a shot. I think he made like 19 straight.
I've been to the last 3 practices. He had excuse me, In the game that they played, a preseason game, just it was a scrimmage. He had 26.
Yeah.
He makes basketball. The last two practices, he's been shooting 70, 80%. And I know 2 or 3 months ago, as I was talking to coaches and people close to the program, I was like, not sure about him.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's proved everybody wrong.
He's going to play,
I don't believe. Yeah, he started in the scrimmage, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think he's going to have a great opportunity to play. I don't know where all of that noise came from in terms of him. He's been hurt. He sat out. He hardly played at all last year. But he has been one of the top guys in practice over the last 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, Dave and I had a really nice visit last year with Brian Dutcher, San Diego State's head coach. And it was after the game, and Dave and I were talking to him, and we're close to Brian and wishing him well as they moved on. And he goes, man, this team, they got a lot of dudes that can shoot. This is last year's team. And he goes, and you know what? Their best scorer not even playing. And Dave and I go, who's that?
It would be interesting.
He says, Dawson Baker. We played him 3 times when he was at Irvine, and we couldn't stop the guy.
And he can play 3 positions on the perimeter.
Yeah.
I didn't see him even in practice. The last few weeks in practice, he's played the point a lot. Okay, but he hasn't. When I watched him last year, before he was hurt and stuff, he seemed more of a wing 2-3 guy that's just going to shoot shots.
Yeah.
So you're spot on about him, though. He's been really good.
Hey, we haven't even mentioned Dallin Hall yet. He's been banged up, didn't play in the exhibition. Don't know if we're going to see him tomorrow. We're going to see him eventually. And he's the leader of the team.
He is the leader of the team. I've spent quite a bit of time with Dallin. We mentioned this before, but Dallin served for 2 years in Fresno Mission.
Right.
So I would always run him down and have basketball talks and take him to dinner and lunch and stuff. But he is kind of for a guy that's coming back, the heart and soul of this group. And that doesn't mean that one of these young guys doesn't beat him out, or maybe there's an injury or whatever the circumstances might be. But Dallin has that. He just has it, and guys respect that. They understand that. He's out of practice every day, even when he's hurt, doing what he can. So Richie, Dallin, Trevin Nell, Foose. We made full circle. I don't know who they started the exhibition game. I have no idea. They're probably not showing everything right now in these exhibitions.
And Dallin and Foose weren't going to play because they've been banged up a little bit.
But it could very well be that 4 of the guys that started last year are starting this year. Now, it may not turn out that way, but that's the way practice was before everybody got hurt.
Yeah.
That's what I watched in practice.
One thing we know is they're long and they're athletic. And what's made San Diego State so good defensively is not because they got 7-footers. They got 6'8", 6'9" guys that make it hard for you to shoot over, so you shoot a lousy percentage. BYU has those guys this year, maybe for the first time ever, at least when it comes to depth. But let me ask you about Canon Catchings, who I just think is, from what I've seen, and we've seen a little bit, he had 19 or so the other night. He's got potential to just be spectacular. And I think of Paul George. You coach Paul George at Fresno State, a guy who can score inside and outside. But there's a gift to Catchings where it all looks so easy and smooth for a kid who's 18.
His tempo and the way he goes about playing this game is different than most. Paul was a kid that had a year, needed to get figured it out, and then all of a sudden he explodes. He's in the NBA. But I think one of the things they do have in common is they're both extremely competitive. And he's got a bounce, man, that's so quick that it amazes me when I watch him practice. And he's just a competitor, and he's skilled and talented, and he probably only played 1 year at BYU. I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
Yeah.
But he is a big piece to this team this year. You start looking. I looked at 10 people there. Yegor, Foose, was everybody's healthy? Elijah Crawford. I don't know if the one kid going to be eligible or not. Catchings, Cada, Richie Saunders, Trevin Nell, Dawson Baker, Dallin Hall. 9 guys that that are going to be the strength of this team. And let me just say this about the coaching staff. They got a lot of guys. I don't know. It takes a lot of organization to have like 7 or 8 assistants. And when I
got like 11.
Well, and the thing is, I've kind of got to know these guys in terms of, they've coached in Israel. John Linehan, a kid that was at he was at Stanford, and he was. I want to make sure I don't get that confused. Take that back. Okay.
Yeah, John was back east.
Yeah, back east. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. Doug Stewart, who's the chief of staff, I've spent a lot of time with him just watching practice. He's the associate. He's kind of like the CEO of what's going on. But I look at this staff with experiences in the NBA, in Europe, international, Australia, collegiately.
Olympic coaches.
Olympic coaches,
yeah.
Yes. And even Justin Young, Kevin's brother, is involved in recruiting and doing those kinds of things. I think he was the editor of Rivals for a long time. I don't know if he's still doing that.
He's a big-time analytics
and
talent evaluation guy.
Yeah. So they've got a staff, they've got the guys, and they're so organized and so detailed. But you can't coach in this business unless you're detailed, that you're watching film, that you're having intense practices. And that's for every coach at that level or any level, really. And so I'm not wowed by that, because that's what the expectation is for Division I basketball. What I am wowed about is the energy, the transition, how they put this team together, that there's just so cohesive. There's no, I usually when you watch 3 or 4 practices, you're going to see somebody go off. So they say something stupid. There's not been any of that.
No.
Okay, because there's that respect for each other. And we do live in a little bit different world today where, it's just, we're more visible. You can't just say something or do something without it being on, Instagram or that night's news or whatever. That no longer exists.
Isn't it interesting that Demon and Catchings are the 2 projected first-round NBA kids? They're young. This is their first time playing college basketball. They are the 2 most coachable kids on that team.
Yeah. And
they're supposed to be the prima donnas, but they're not.
There's no prima donnas out there. I mean, I've watched 4 practices. I have never seen anything of that. There'll be correction. Coaches will get into guys if they make the same mistake 2 or 3 times. But no, this is a solid group, which you have to have. You're not going to be in the Big 12 and not have every base covered. From how we eat, how we prepare, where we sleep, everything. And this staff is obviously prepared for that and is going to do that. And it's going to be a fun year. It'll be fun to watch the younger guys, see how their impact is. And, it's a situation. Does where does Elijah Crawford fit here? Well, right now, he's playing. He's playing.
What about Brody Kozlowski? Where does he fit?
He gets healthy. Yeah.
Did he redshirt?
He hasn't, nothing
They
official.
haven't decided yet, but he's coming back from an injury. But I watch him at 6'7", just stroking threes.
No, he's stroking threes. I mean, I'm not telling the coaches what to do, but that roster's so full with 10 guys. Where does Brody fit in?
Yeah.
Okay. He deserves an opportunity for a year to get strong, get shots up, practice every day, and they'd be much more prepared to get minutes than this year, where you've got some guys that are going to be leaving for the draft. You're going to have a few guys leaving because of graduation. So, it's hard to pick. But for me, I know Brody's mom pretty well. You guys do too. I'm not going to give any advice. But for his future, redshirt.
Yeah, and he has a chance to be really, really good.
He does.
I was homecoming week. Jeff Chapman was in town and came to stay with us, and he and I went over to basketball practice, and Jeff said, "Wow, they just spent almost the whole practice on defense today. Like they literally worked defense for almost an entire practice, and the exactness that they were asking these kids to execute with on the defensive end with jump switching and all this stuff that they're doing with them." Jeff was taken back. He's like, wow, I don't know if I've ever seen attention to detail like this on the defensive end.
When you have a new young team, and that's how you win championships, you're going to spend more time on defense. It's not like the offense is set and ready to go, but if you're going to put a team together, you're going to put a team together to win championships and be in the NCAA tournament. You got to spend more time on defense than you do offense. It's not to say that we're downplaying offense, but these kids have the skill sets. They understand all the ball screen action. That's much easier to replicate than really get after it defensively, take it to them, stay in a stance, switch when you need to switch, back out when you're running rebound. That's what wins games. And so that's why you're seeing that from that coaching staff rather than them oohing you on with Jaegor's passes across court.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's amazing.
Former BYU basketball head coach Steve Cleveland's on the Wise Guys tonight. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. The stream is hopping from all over the world. Of course, exciting news earlier. Xavier Staten, a 7-footer, top 3 center in the country, commits to BYU, picks the Cougars over Michigan, who came after him hard, over UNLV, over Stanford, and about 32 others.
And if they land DeBanson in this next year's class as well?
And they expect to.
And he's like, a lot of the recruiting services are saying 100% BYU. Those two coming in next year's class?
I know.
My goodness.
They just got a commit from the Burgess kid, who's 6'9".
Who's phenomenal
the
player.
nephew of the assistant coach. And then
Josh's son.
Yeah, and then J.J. Marticourt is also expected to come this way, and we'll see. But he's the best player ever come out of Hawaii if you talk to his coaches. But anyway, that would be a 4-man recruiting haul of the likes
it's just like
we've never seen.
You have to balance this now. We can get excited about all these things, but at the end of the day,
It's not our job; it's their job, right?
They got to figure that out, right, Coach?
They have things to figure out. But
yes,
I agree with you. There is depth and talent and more talent coming. But come January, or I think it's the 4th, they're going to play
December 31st.
They're going to play the University of Houston. I think on second, 3rd, or 4th. Okay, welcome to the Big 12.
Yeah, they are loaded. They are physical, and they're experienced, and they're
So how much of this non-conference schedule, which starts tomorrow night on ESPN Plus with Blaine and Jimmer and me and Spencer on the call, which will be a lot of fun. Marriott Center is going to be jam-packed for this group. But how much now of these 9-10 games will be spent trying to figure out a starting lineup and a rotation? Again, you got a few guys still banged up, so they'll have to fit their way in as they come back. But, Steve, you just mentioned all the players. What are we going to see? Are we going to see a different starting 5 every night? How does a coach do what needs to be done?
If you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.
What are we going to see? Are we going to see a different starting 5 every night? How does a coach do what needs to be done?
I think you want to establish that sooner than later, but injuries do have an impact on that, and or academics or whatever it might be that might impact that. So I think you want to try to get a feel for that 7, 8, 9, and 10 guys, who they are, what they're going to look like. I mean, in some of these beginning games, starters aren't going to play more than 15, 20 minutes. Okay, and so it's going to be hard to gauge kind of where they are when they're winning, 100 to 60 or whatever it might be. Right. However, they do have film, and so when those games are over, the next day you're practicing, you're going to watch everything you did well, you're going to watch things you didn't do right, and we're going to get better from it. So even though they might be blowouts, there's still a lot to be learned: effort, execution, communication on the floor. When you watch them defensively, and you guys said you've been to some practices, there's a whole different terminology. Heath Schroyer, who was my assistant here in Fresno State, he's as good as there is. I'm just telling you right now. He could come in this staff. He could come in anybody's staff if he wasn't an AD. But the terminology is so different that I noticed as I watched, and what they use to read ball screens and how they adjust to post passing. There's all different terminology, but they're teaching it. The young men are responding to it. There's lots of self-correction, and there's a lot of good coaching going. So
you're looking at that preseason schedule that you have down. Are there a couple of games that jump out to you? They go, okay, this is a good test. This will be a good chance to see, where they stand in that preseason.
No, well, ASU. I don't know if that's a neutral site. Is that
that one's
not
Arizona State?
Not ASU. I'm sorry.
That's their first league game, right?
So, but I look at
the tough ones are Ole Miss in San Diego and maybe Purdue or NC State the next day in San Diego.
Exactly, and that's what I had. Those are the two that will get their attention and be national TV games or area TV games that everybody will be excited to watch. Everything else is going to be an opportunity to practice and execute and give everybody a chance. I know nobody wants to watch 100. Well, fans probably do. But when it's 80 to 40,
it's tough on the broadcast.
Yeah, it's really tough. You got to make a lot of stuff up. And
we don't make it up. We just
no, you're really good.
It'll be good to have Jim around tomorrow night. We'll just talk stuff with Jim.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, these people that are going to get a chance to play, they have an opportunity now to help their bottom 5 or 6 get better through these types of games. And so now what happens by the time they get to the league, some of the guys that had kinks that needed to be worked out or get healthy or have better understanding of how to guard the ball, they're going to be better after 2 or 3 weeks because they've had more playing time in games that they normally would never play. That makes sense?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Big 12 play starts on New Year's Eve. Arizona State to the Marriott Center. Arizona now part of the Big 12 along with the Sun Devils. There are 5 teams in the Big 12 currently in the AP top 10.
5 in the top 10.
Of the preseason top 25. What kind of ride are we in for here?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and I think it's exactly what they need. You're looking at this thing, and it's not to say they can't win some of those games or all of them, or we'll see what happens. They're going to be difficult.
10 of them are on their own floor.
Yeah, exactly, which is really nice. They need those games. They need the buzz around this community, and it's not coming from the coaching staff, the players,
no.
but the everything, the pie in the sky, and all the things that are so perfect are not going to be so perfect when you're playing a really competitive team. So now if you can get your bottom 5 or 6 and help those guys grow and then have that core group that's going to be playing, you jump right into the league. They're not going to have any problem competing. We'll see how they do on the road. This is going to be new for some of the guys and some of the, you got a number of freshmen.
Yeah.
You've got some one-and-done guys, and then you've got 4 or 5 who played a lot of games the last 2 years in this league. Is it 2 years? This is the second year? Big 12?
This is the second year.
Second year. So the second year in the Big 12.
We got to figure out who's going to take the last shot.
Yeah.
Well, who's going to be the money guy?
Yeah. I mean, Trevin, watch Nell shoot it, and now to watch Baker shoot it. I mean, if
Yegor's got a couple of options when he drives and kicks, right?
He does, and because Yegor, and I haven't spoken to him or the coaches about this, so I don't know, but his first reaction isn't shoot. Okay, and that's okay. He is a guard, he's a distributor, but they need him to score sometimes. I mean, where's going to be some of the post action with a 6'9" 2-guard or 3-guard, and how do you guard him? So creating different lineups will be really fun for that staff and maybe be real difficult for their opponents.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a tough Big 12, but it's just what these coaches need. They'll get pushed. They'll make mistakes. They'll make changes. They'll get better, and the players will too. You get way better in a loss than you do in a lopsided win. Okay, they'll learn from that, and I think I look for them to have a really good year. We'll see what it looks like by the time we get to Big 12 action. But this is a tough, fun team to watch practice.
And what a league. Would we have ever thought, even just a couple of years ago, BYU would have this type of roster, and they'd have Kansas coming into play in the Marriott Center? Like, that just seemed like a dream 5 years ago.
Did they play Kansas home and home this year or not?
Just home.
Just home.
Just home.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Kansas is pretty.
Hey, that beats what do we have? UTEP. Who else do you have? You had Air Force coming in, although Air Force was good. Wyoming when they were in Colorado State. This is a different place.
Yeah, they played at Kansas and got that big upset, but they have Kansas coming in, and Kansas is not going to be down.
Now the Mountain West early on with Utah, there were 3, 4, 5
Mexico
teams
was
in
good.
Mexico, but you're right. It's not the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's not the Big 12.
And they're actually 16, right? It's 16 punishing
Yeah, it's the
teams.
Big 16, and Ed in Arizona didn't make it any easier, right?
No.
All right, let's finish up with this, because one thing that is moving around tonight is, again, this news breaking of Xavier Staten. And Dick Harmon just put out a tweet that said, updated some numbers. He's the number 2 ranked center, number 23 in the class of 2025, according to the service he looked at. But this announcement is now moving through social media. The rest of college basketball is seeing this, that BYU beat out a kid from Michigan. And we've heard all this other stuff. And everyone knows that A.J. DeBance is favored to come to BYU because that's what all the services say. So what message is college basketball getting tonight? It's opening night for some teams, but everyone else gets going tomorrow night. But BYU gets this kid tonight.
I think down the road there have to be changes with NIL. This is out of control. I mean, the last young man you just mentioned, his number's real. And then, I'm not saying anything that's not on public news. Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge come out and say $4.5 million for that,
For DeBanza?
Oh.
Yeah. That's the services have said.
Yeah, they said
his
a minimum
value
of 3.
is this.
I don't know if they really said those
I don't know if it's
things.
even going to be that.
Yeah, if it's even misquoted.
Yeah.
But that is a different world we live in.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe that NIL, all the smart people, presidents, coaches, everybody, administrators, you got to get a hold of this, okay? for the betterment of the game. I have no problem paying these young men, okay?
Right.
But the idea that we're giving $4 or $5 million to freshmen that'll play one season if they don't get hurt,
Right.
and then they go to the pros. That's not a college atmosphere.
Is that a sustainable model? It doesn't seem like
it doesn't seem like a
No matter what
sustainable-
school.
And, we behind the scenes, we've done some digging, and our understanding is, BYU's being competitive, but they're not the highest offer. Like Igor Denman had way higher offers,
Exactly,
and came to BYU because it was a fair offer, and the opportunity to get developed and not have distractions. Canon Catchings had committed to Purdue. Like now you got a kid that was a Michigan recruit and a Purdue commit coming to BYU. My understanding is they didn't pay Canon more than Purdue, but his parents loved the environment and the opportunity. If he was only going to be here for a year, they loved the culture and the environment that he was going to learn, be developed, not have distractions, and be able to go on and live his dream. So BYU's not having to pay top dollar, but they're having to be competitive at least.
Oh, yeah.
So because you can't.
No, you have to.
You're crazy if you don't. But competitive, not the highest bidder. And I think there's a.
You got to be a fit.
Yeah,
you got to be a fit.
You got to fit here. And I think Kevin and these guys done a really good job of selling the other things. Hey, we'll be competitive, but what about these other things?
Hey,
And
everything that gets these kids excited is playing at the next level. I mean, you can say what you want about this year.
Yeah.
These guys aren't coming here because of what they knew about BYU basketball. They're coming here because this is an opportunity to get to the next level with NBA guys that have credentials and have a history with. And now once they get on campus, they go, oh my gosh, this institution is amazing.
Yeah.
Great facilities, great young people, wonderful athletic director, and everybody that goes with it. But that's not initially what it's been. To get them here, it's something different.
And then don't you go to college so you can get a job? The way you go to college, it's trained to get skilled to prepare for a job. So I went to college.
right.
That's why you went.
So why
That's why
wouldn't Canon Catchings come to get prepared to go play in the NBA?
And if
See,
it's-
he does have a job.
Right.
And it's called the NBA.
Right.
That's what he's preparing
Right.
for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you look at these, they're surrounded by, mentors. They're surrounded by guys, nutrition guys. They're surrounded by guys to help them with their mental therapy. There's 10 coaches that deal with those things, and they're a must. Because when you put an 18-year-old in that environment and not have them prepared, we know that those horror stories look like.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there will be no horror stories like that because they have surrounded these young men with really knowledgeable, wonderful, good people who are keeping them grounded and in the end, know that the next step is the league.
And that's why the Catchings and the Dimmons said, yeah, this is the place.
Exactly.
This is the place for our kid.
Exactly. Can you imagine as a parent? Well, I was there when Catching's parents, I sat right behind him and watched him practice. And I kept thinking, as a parent, isn't this exactly where you
This is
want?
exactly what you want. And there's and Kevin's been able to and then this whole point of the environment's going to be great for your kid. They're going to get developed. Hey, he's a projected lottery pick. Well, but on this staff, do you know how many lottery picks we've developed in the pros or where? Like, I don't know what the number, but it's a crazy number. Probably more than any other staff in the United States.
No question.
What's that famous line from Field of Dreams? If you build it,
They will
They'll
come.
yeah.
They're already coming.
They're
brother.
coming.
Have you seen a game that wasn't sold out in the last 10 years?
They're
You know what I
coming.
mean? They're already coming. The tickets are just getting a
Now
little
there's
off.
and the tickets are higher and the players are taller.
Exactly.
Steve Cleveland with us here on the night before the season opener for BYU basketball. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
You're welcome. It's good to be with you
Have we
guys.
made it through all your notes?
No, I didn't hardly use any of them. But
That's-
I did.
It's because you know all this stuff.
I do know this stuff, but
Yeah.
so do you.
Is there something you wrote down in there? You're like, yeah,
Yeah.
Blaine and Dave they have got to hear this.
There is something. I love the continuity and the chemistry of the staff.
Yeah.
Everybody's connected some way. But when you go in with this much publicity and this much excitement, you can't afford to have people that are leading not be really good people, grounded,
Right.
and love kids and do the right things. And that's what they're teaching. And I mean, you start looking at this. Linehan, so I love the fact that each coach comes from a different deal. Interesting, Doug Stewart, who's the chief of staff, I've spent a lot of time with.
Yeah.
He's been around, coached, and done so many things. But I also like the young man from Stanford. All of a sudden, his name's escaping me.
Brian Dunson.
Dunson, yeah.
Yes, And when you get a chance to just get one-on-one, it's hard to get one-on-one and watching a practice because they run it from film, run to film. There's not much chit-chat to talk to the coaches. But I love the fact that he's surrounded himself with a great staff. That's what I'm excited about.
We're going to see him working tomorrow for the first time in a real game at the Marriott Center at 7 o'clock against Central Arkansas. And it should be fun to see him. What a great conversation. Thank you for being here.
We love it. Hey, I was going to ask you one other thing before you go, because I know you follow it too. What's your thought on this football season leading into basketball season? Has there ever been a more fun time at BYU? And what do you think about this football team?
Let me tell you something nobody knows, that nobody knows. I'm going to say this publicly because I love this man. I called him, and I hope he's not embarrassed by this. I apologize, Kalani, if you hear this and think it's crazy. But when I was working for ESPN and working for BYU TV, I was, in a normal setting where you're taking names and people are talking or talk show radio. And I mentioned something about, having a culture. Mm-hmm. And it got repeated, and it sounded like Coach Cleve was getting into Kalani. That's what it was. And at the time, I was busy doing things and going and coming, and it never left my heart. At the beginning of this football season, I called him. Mm-hmm. And I just said, listen, I need to apologize to you for something that happened a long time ago that I felt like offended you, and I am so sorry. And I had that experience just sharing with him. And then he told me, we laughed together, and he says, you want to know how many times I've messed up? You just have to ask my wife. And I said, that had been with me for years. And I wanted him to know that, dude, I am 100% behind you, and that I love you and everything you've done there, regardless of what their record was. And so it was a nice moment for Kalani and I. It meant something. I know he knew what I'm going through. I know what he's going through, being a head coach. And so that was a special thing with Kalani that I'll not forget.
Great. Thanks for sharing
stuff.
that. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow night.
See you, bud.
Yeah.
That's Steve Cleveland.
Thanks, Steve.
Took the Cougs back to the NCAA tournament, one of the pioneers. And now we're going to watch what Kevin Young and his staff can do as they start their first season tomorrow night. And again, it's on ESPN Plus. Blaine and Jimmer and myself. Spencer will do sidelines and pregame shows an hour before, and Marriott Center will be jam-packed, if not sold out almost. And it should be quite a start to this whole thing.
I've been studying about on Central Arkansas, and they have some length on this team. Now, the guys they have with length aren't quite as athletic as the Canon Catchings and these guys.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of size.
I was going back and forth with their head coach, who will see it shoot around tomorrow.
Yes.
Hey, the funnest part about doing what you all do
is
you get the game plan.
Yes.
You get to know everybody. And so you've got so much stuff to work with to start with, and you've never seen them play.
Right.
And then you add to that.
It's so fun.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah. We're spoiled. We know what we get to do is really fun.
We had some great comments last week. Before we run down what's going on campus, some great comments that we want to share. I want you to know we read all the comments and to keep sending them to us. But this one is from Ashley at 2523 on YouTube about our visit with Elder Clark Gilbert, balancing faith and athletics, BYU's role in college sports. And her comment was, the success of BYU's fan turnout is absolutely connected to this unique mission. We show up, whether it's a winning season or not, because we feel a sense of community, not just the thrill of fandom. It'd be hard for me to show up for games if I didn't feel like the teams were representing more than the score. So that's a nice comment.
That's fun stuff. And then from Richard Barrow, 4620 on YouTube, about our interview last week with Ty Detmer. I remember the Washington State game, Ty's freshman year. He blocked a defensive lineman. I will never forget that giant lineman looking down at Ty in astonishment. That's the kind of competitor Ty was.
Here's one from Jesse Hayes, 486 from YouTube on our interview last week with Ty. Quote, I've never been more entertained watching football than when I watched Ty at BYU.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah, from John Douglas Morey on our website about the basketball opener on Tuesday. He says, because last week we said, well, hey, don't worry. We know it's election night. We'll update you. He goes, Please do not keep us updated on the elections Tuesday during the game. I'll be watching the game to escape from the elections. So, we'll take that advice. And we won't give you updates.
It'll be all right. It'll be Cougar Nation's escape.
Yeah, that's
all
right.
All right, leave those comments and responses. Speaking of which, Diane McCann on the live stream says, "What a great story! Thanks, Steve, for sharing. Love you."
Yeah. Well, hey, by the way, Steve's still here.
Yeah. Are you just going to stay here till the end of the show?
He forgot to talk to us about something.
You were talking about Gifford Neal.
Yeah, because
is that your wife? Is that what your
Yeah,
wife?
that's what my wife just said about you.
Diane always she
I
comes.
love Diane.
Put the
Brenda
headphones
listens.
back on. Where are the headphones? Let's get to the headphones back
How
on.
in the world?
And
Did
put
you
them like
ever-
this. You don't need to. You're not like there, just like that.
How in the world?
I know
did
what
that
you're about to
woman-
ask.
How did that woman ever?
Yes.
Listen, her parents have no idea. They
No,
haven't been able to figure it out either.
You know exactly how I feel about that. So, I was just sitting here thinking about. You mentioned Gifford, and you're talking about him.
Well, Scott Mitchell, that's his idol.
It
Growing
is?
up, Gifford Nielsen was Scott Mitchell's idol. That's what he talked to us about.
So,
Hey,
I gotta tell
you
you-
don't need to hold those on your head. They're
well,
just
they're
sit there.
slipping.
See
My
that?
ears are small.
No.
So,
Gifford Nielsen.
Gifford Neal.
By the way, you're now committed to be on for the rest of the show. So just get comfortable.
and just so everybody knows at home, like this is Dave and I and Coach Cleve when we just get together.
Exactly.
Like this is how it is when we just go to the country club for lunch or when we're just on the road together down at the tournament or whatever. You guys are just getting a glimpse of the conversations we have.
Do you still have a membership at Riverside?
Yeah, why?
I need to get invited.
What are you talking about? We invite you like when do you like we're not gonna play in
They're
this
not going to
weather.
play golf now until probably April.
Yeah.
Well, in this weather, even if you hit it well, it hurts your hands.
I was out there
don't
the
do
other
that.
day, and
I'm
you were
fair
playing
weather.
in the group ahead of me. So I know you got friends, but we got your friends.
Dave's a member too. So there you
let
go.
me take you back to 2013.
Okay.
All right.
My wife and I are walking out of the MTC for mission presidents and their wives. We've spent 3 days.
You're going to Indiana for
We're going to
3 years.
Indiana. So Giff and I kind of said hello, started talking. Our wives were talking behind us. And all of a sudden, right behind us was Elder Perry. Mm-hmm. And Elder Perry has a lot of relationships with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Giff and I were, he came in the locker room for every game. Elder Perry was a very, very special person in my life.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, these 2 big hands he has, I don't know if you ever shook hands with him, but they're huge monster hands, put them on our shoulders and said, "Boys, I want you to take every single thing that you ever lived on a football field, on a gymnasium, at the NC12, everything you ever learned coaching, and apply it to every single thing you're going to do as a 70 and a mission president, and you'll be just fine."
Wow. I
He
love
was
Elder
right.
Perry.
You were great.
We used to.
They were
For some reason, he would always come to the game at the same time I was coming, and we'd get in the elevator to go up because he would go sit in the president's box, and we'd go, "All right, Blaine, make me feel better about today that I do." It's okay. I'll give you a little scouting report. I think they're going to win. He goes, "Okay, I feel a lot better. I feel a lot better for that." Every week he would be on that elevator at the same time as me. I love Elder Perry.
Hey, Dave, could I share something about my dear wife?
Yes.
Yeah, we already told you got a hot mic. You can say whatever you want. What about Kip?
Kip's father passed away yesterday.
Oh, sorry.
And
Didn't know that.
I have the sweetest woman in the world. I just want to tell her how much I love her and how much I appreciate her, and it will be better.
Yeah. Our condolences out.
We could have started with that like 45 minutes ago. But I'm glad you got it in.
No. We love
and that's
Kip.
a tender time for
Yep,
sure.
yep.
And
So-
thank you for that. So let's do the rest of the story before we wrap up here, because you got a call from the Utes about going up there to maybe be the new head basketball coach after you were done at BYU and heading to Fresno. And then you had to tell them no. That was a surprise, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And you've told that story here before, but there was hey, would you be interested in coming up here? And by then you understood the rivalry completely.
No, I didn't want any part of that. And the going to Fresno State, I know all the reasons why, and what a blessing in many ways that was for us. But it was really hard on me. I mean, I've never ever really come out publicly and talked about that, but it was really, really hard. I loved those young men. I loved Dave. And it turned out just being so perfect. Mm-hmm. But it was really hard. Maybe one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And then to get down there and find out that there's 6 years of probation.
Oh, you had to go. You were part of the negotiation with the NCAA, right?
I was. I was the only one from the university that actually had a chance to speak to the NCAA. They wouldn't talk to the president.
Yeah.
And but I made friends, a lot of family there, loved the players, but it will never match what we had at BYU.
Look, and we thank you for. The last thing we want to do is see you as head coach of the Utes.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
we would have had to
much
dealt with that.
place.
There's no reason for that.
No,
Yeah.
I think Dave was more of a Utah fan than I was.
Dave was?
Yeah. I mean, first of all,
All I know is when you came back with Fresno State to play at the Marriott Center, you got a standing ovation.
Yep.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yep. So
For Blaine Fowler, what?
Oh, no, one more thing. When I walked in here today, you were talking about movies, sports movies.
yes.
And talking about Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Where did they play their games?
Butler
In
Fieldhouse.
Indianapolis.
Didn't they play at Butler Fieldhouse?
Milan High School.
Milan.
Was that right by where you were serving?
Yeah.
So there you go.
But I saw that. I thought, well, we're going to talk a little bit about some Hoosiers.
Some Hoosiers, baby.
Glad we got that in.
Milan High School.
They did play the tournaments, state tournaments and things were
I have
played
a-
at Butler Fieldhouse.
I have a feeling that Paul maybe stopped by the mission home a couple times while you were there in Indianapolis. Did he when he was playing? Because he was.
I know you went and saw him, right?
Yeah, my grandkids came out 3 or 4 times. And Temple was built there
Right.
in Indy in 2015, and then we went to 3 or 4 games. It was fun to go down to
So
the locker
fun.
room.
Yeah, that's cool.
Enjoy your book.
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Give your wife
Who wrote
our
this, you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave
Give your
wrote it.
wife our love.
I will.
And,
I can't write a book. I'm not smart enough.
there's hardly any writing in there. It's mostly pictures.
Mostly photos,
But someone
images.
had to put it together, and that was
They
me.
put it together. So and
Guys,
Sherry Dew helped him.
We'll
So.
see you at the Marriott Center
you tomorrow night.
7 on ESPN Plus tomorrow night. We'll start it all over.
See y'all.
Jim. Thank you for watching The Wise Guy.
If you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.